Hi scholars, going to do another review video for you guys. This is going to be making a box plot. It's going to review a few different kinds of skills, including getting the median, minimum, maximum, and the quartiles as well. Okay? Again, this is a review video. If you know you have these skills, I would still suggest at least watching the video so that you can just kind of refresh your memory and make sure that you do understand all the parts that you need to in order for us to continue with the chapter. Okay? If you do know that you need more of a refresher, I highly suggest that you take notes. Keep these notes saved with you so that you can reference them when you guys are working on any assignments that we might have in the future. Alright? Okay, so we're going to make a box plot. We're going to go through all the things that we need to get before we make the box plot, and then I'll be able to hopefully draw it here out for you guys so that you guys can see how we actually make the whole box plot. Okay? Alright, I'm going to use the same data set that I did in the previous video, so if you notice I left this here so that you guys can kind of look at this as well. We're going to use median, and of course so that I don't have to repeat, things over and over. That's why I have this here, because we are going to need this piece of information, and we did this in the previous video. Okay? Alright, but anyway, so let's start. So I do have my data set. The first thing that I want to find is the median, only because a lot of times when you do make a box plot, you will have already kind of found usually mean, median, mode, and range. So usually you will have that piece of information. If not, it's kind of better to kind of get that one over with so that you can move on to some of the more easier things to find. All right. So we are going to find the median. So I'm going to put right here median. Again, like I said in the previous video, we already found it. The median is the middle number, but because we had two numbers in the middle here, we found the average of them, and then that right there, 4.5, is our median for this data set. So I'm going to go ahead and write that down. Okay. The next two things we're going to find are the minimum and the maximum. Those, of course, are pretty easy. The minimum is just the least number in the data set. So the least number we have here is 1, so your minimum is going to be 1. The next easiest one to find is the maximum, because the maximum is just the greatest number in your data set. The greatest number we have here is 9, so that's going to be your maximum, which is 9. Okay. The next thing you do is to find the different quartiles. So find the first, second, and third quartile so that you can do the, the first and the outer edges of your box there, and the middle as well. Now, hopefully you guys remembered that in order to find the second quartile, and I'm just going to write Q just to kind of save time here, but our second quartile is also the same as our median. So we don't need to find that information again. Just look for your median, and you know that that's also going to be your second quartile, because your second quartile is the middle number of your data set, okay? Again, which is the same as the median. So for our second quartile, I'm just going to write again 4.5, since we know that that's the same numbers, or there are the same numbers, okay? Now, once you've found that and I'm going to do just kind of a little arrow here, pointing out that our second quartile, or our median, is 4.5, now we can use that to help find our first and our third quartiles. First quartile is in the first, or the bottom half here. What you would do is you would take these numbers and you're going to find the middle number. Now we're lucky that we have, an odd set of numbers here, so we know that 3 is the middle of this bottom half. That is our first quartile. So again, after you find your second quartile, the bottom half is where you find the first quartile, and you just find the middle number of those numbers. So 3 is our first quartile. To find the third quartile, you are going to take the top half of that data set. So you go to the median, you go to the top half, and then you find the middle number there. In this case, it's going to be 8. So this is our third. 8 is our third quartile. Okay? All right. So also what I'm going to do is, just so you guys know, I am also going to label this our second Q here, just so you guys can kind of remember that that is our second quartile. Our first quartile is right here, so I'm just going to kind of label that. I know it's a little small, hopefully you can still see it, but that's our first quartile. Second quartile, and this one here will be our third quartile. Okay, all right. So now when we have all those pieces of information, we're going to be able to do a box plot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write or draw a number line here, straight as I possibly can. When you begin to label the numbers on your number line here to make your box plot, you have to remember that the numbers need to be reasonable. I don't need to go from 1 to 50. I only have, my max number is 9. I don't need to go to 50. I don't need to go to 25. I don't even need to go to 20. So I'm going to look at the data set that I have and I'm going to label my number line appropriately. So for example, I am going to start at 0 because there's a 1 here. I'm just going to go 1 below it. So I'm going to start at 0. Since my max number is 9, I'm going to end it at 10. I'm going to go 1 over. You don't have to do that. I just do that because I think it makes it look a little nicer, a little neater, and a little easier to read. You could start at 1 and end at 9. That's perfectly fine. But I'm going to do this again just because I think it's going to make it look a little easier, nicer to read. Okay, so now I need to do my numbers in between. So let me see if I can do this correctly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9. And you know what? I'm going to go ahead and do this 10. I'm going to stretch this out. Unfortunately, I don't have a whiteboard where I can erase it, but that's okay. All right, usually, if that were to happen and you're drawing your own number line, just erase the part that you don't need, okay? Let me double check. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to label the middle just to make it a little easier. 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So that's going to be my number line for my box plot. So of course we start with our minimum, okay? So we're going to start with our minimum. That's going to be where our first little part of our box plot is, which is 1. So I'm going to draw a line there for 1. The next thing you're going to do is your first quartile. First quartile is 3, so I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. I know that's 3, so that's where the beginning of my box starts, okay? And once we get it all drawn out, hopefully you'll remember how to kind of draw the box that goes in the middle. Next is our second quartile, okay, and so I am going to put a line that is 4.5, which is going to be just about right there, so I'm going to go ahead and put a line there. Again, this is where our box starts, so if you wanted to, you can start already drawing out your box. But we do need to include the third quartile. So our third quartile is 8, so I'm going to go to 8, 5, 6, 7, 8, and I'm going to put a line right there, and that's the end of my box. So I'm going to draw the box. Now our maximum is our last part of our box plot, so I'm going to find 9 and put a line there, and then I'm just going to connect the minimum, first quartile, second quartile, which is also your median, third quartile, and your maximum. Okay, so I am going to label them just to make it a little bit more clear, and just in case you guys do need that. This is your minimum. This is the beginning of our box plot, which is the first quartile. The middle here is the median, which is the middle number of your data set. So it kind of makes sense that it would be, well, I know it's not exactly the middle of your box plot, but it's considered the middle of your data set. But this is your second quartile. And I'm also going to write equals your median, because we know that the second quartile and the median are the same number. Then we have this last part here, which is your third quartile. So I'm just going to put third Q. And then you have your maximum. And that's about it, you guys. I hope that this review helps you guys out. If you guys have any questions, please make sure you send me a reminder and email. I'll be more than happy to help you guys out if you need any more explanation. Or I may be able to direct you to different videos, other videos that might help you if needed, okay? But this is how we make a box plot. Hopefully this information helps you so that we can continue learning and finishing the rest of the chapter 8 that we need to, okay? All right, you guys, have a good day.